Hi and welcome to my Pilates Life. Today we are going to touch base on Pilates fundamentals and setting our centre in a neutral position, ensuring that we can breathe properly with our Pilates exercises. If we can get this bit right, we can add on to Pilates and build up the layers that it provides for a really effective workout. So I invite you to join me in sitting, facing the screen, so you're nice and comfortable. You can follow along with the next bit, facing me without having to stress or strain. So make sure you're sitting. You don't have to be sitting like me, I'm kneeling, that's how I'm comfortable. But I want you to make sure that your bottom is sitting down equal left and right. So we're not on the wonk with the spine and the pelvis out of their neutral alignment. And also just make sure that you have a small towel or a cushion or a block or something to support your head, because we are going to lie down onto our backs in a moment. So we're comfortably sitting. We're sitting up nice and tall in a nice neutral position. And we just want to talk about your breath, your diaphragmatic breath. So this is the way that we should breathe naturally and effectively throughout the day. But we do see a lot of people and find that a lot of people aren't familiar with or comfortable with doing this normal diaphragmatic breath. So I just want to go through that with you today in this position, and then we're going to go and challenge it on the mat. So I'd like you to pop your hands onto your lower rib cage and just first of all familiarise yourself and feel your rib cage and just kind of feel the position of it. You're going to rest your arms comfortably, make sure your shoulders are nice and relaxed. And I often cue having width through the collarbones at the front and a nice long neck. And essentially what that means is we don't want to end up hunching and losing that neck and losing that width through the collarbones at the front. So nice and proud through those collarbones. Your hands are just resting onto your rib cage. And we're just going to do a few breaths together. So I'd like you to just really gently breathe in through your nose and exhale out through your mouth. And keep going with that breath and start to feel what's happening underneath your fingertips. So keep breathing. As you inhale in, hopefully you're feeling that your ribcage is gently expanding into your fingertips, into your hands. And then as you exhale, the ribcage is softening. We're trying to really fill up our lungs into the bottom without breathing up into our neck or into the front of our chest. Close your eyes if it's helpful and really focus on what you can feel with your hands. Inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth. Feeling that excursion, that width, that widening, of the rib cage, and then softening of the rib cage. I'm going to do a few more with you. So breathing into the width, exhaling, feeling that ribcage softening. So the reason that we focus on that diaphragmatic breath is because when we talk about and recruit the centre or the primary sling of muscles that make up our deep core, the diaphragm forms the top part of that cylinder. So if we visualise that cylinder like a Coke can, the diaphragm sits on the top. The pelvic floor, the muscles, the ligaments, the fascia that make up the pelvic floor form the bottom, and then round the edges of that cylinder we've got the deep transversus abdominis muscles and the multifidus muscles at the back, and this is what makes up your primary sling of support. So that if we can get a nice effective diaphragmatic breath, and we know that we're using that effectively, it means that we can use our pelvic floor and our tummy muscles more effectively too, because essentially as you're exhaling and using that diaphragmatic breath, it makes space for your pelvic floor and your core to work into. So once we're happy with that diaphragmatic breath, then we're going to think about coordinating how we switch on our pelvic floor with the breath. So we can breathe into the bases of our lungs. We've got that nice bibasal diaphragmatic breath. We want to coordinate it with the control. So what we're going to do, and I'm going to keep my hands on my ribcage because I think that's the most useful place to visualise and to feel. You're going to breathe in through the nose as we've done before, and then we're going to exhale. And during that exhale, we're going to start switching on through the pelvic floor. So I want you to think about back to front passage, like you're stopping wind and then water. And we're lifting that pelvic floor up and in with the breath out. And then for now, as we then breathe in again, we're going to let go of the pelvic floor from front to then back passage. So first of all, we'll just get used to kind of switching it on and switching it off, and focusing initially on that run of the fibres through the pelvic floor from the back passage to the front passage. And once you're happy with that, you can then think about the depth of contraction. So think about how the muscles work internally. And the way I like to visualise this is thinking about a pebble dropping into water. And as that pebble falls, it creates these ripples that come out. We're going to think about those ripples in reverse as we engage those pelvic floor muscles. So we're thinking about from back to front engagement, and then we're going to think about the ripples coming in and lifting back up. So we get the superficial and the deep fibres of the pelvic floor working. So try and coordinate that with your breath. So as you're breathing out, you're engaging the pelvic floor. As you're breathing in, you're letting the pelvic floor relax. This is really important for a functioning core, that you can both switch on and you can switch off. So this is why often with Pilates you'll hear us saying exhale with the effort, because we know that your centre is working most effectively as you're breathing out and making space for that pelvic floor and centre to work into. Okay? So with an effective pelvic floor and centre contraction, you should be able to sustain it throughout a breath. So we don't want to switch it on and switch it off the whole time. It's a postural muscle. It's designed to switch on and to stay switched on throughout. So what we want to be able to do is get that nice low grade contraction, and then essentially with Pilates we then challenge that by moving around and getting our body into different positions to provide resistance and challenge to that centre, to that control. So what we want to think about now is ensuring that we've got that optimal contraction that we can hold. We're going to find it with the breath out, but then we're going to sustain it with a normal breath cycle. So you're going to exhale, breathe in through the nose, exhale, switch your pelvic floor on back to front passage, gently lifting the pebble up and in, and then holding that gentle contraction and then focusing back on the breath. So I'm engaging that pelvic floor and I'm keeping it switched on, and then I'm still breathing. So do a couple of breaths with you, in through the nose, out through the mouth. And giving your focus to sustaining and building the endurance of that centre contraction. Good. So down on the mat, we're going to talk about a postural setup here. We are going to cue a kind of perfect postural setup, but everybody is different. And what's really, really key is that you start in a comfortable position here. So I'm going to talk you through it, but it may not look and feel exactly the same as I'm talking about. And again, if you have any concern about that, just get in touch, we can help. But I'm going to cue through what this kind of ideal picture will look like. We've got our head onto a towel or a cushion, and we think about having length through the back of the neck. And so that means tucking the chin in ever so slightly. And I think a nice way to think about it is what your gaze is doing. So if you're looking straight ahead with your head supported, what we don't want to see is that you're ending up looking behind you or even directly up. You should be looking just gently in front of you, I'm following my gaze with my fingertips here. So the back of the neck is long, give myself a slight double chin, tucking the chin in, nice and comfortable. The shoulder blades are gently back and down, so I've got that width through the collarbone that we spoke about before. If you're not sure, I want you to elevate your arms up towards the ceiling. Imagine that you're holding a beach ball, and we're going to think about lifting that beach ball a little bit higher by allowing the shoulder blades to move around the rib cage, and then lowering that beach ball down, feeling the shoulder blades setting back and down. So do a couple of those shoulder blade isolations, and we finish with the shoulder blades gently back and down with the nice comfortable width through the collarbones. Popping your hands onto your rib cage is another nice position to do that diaphragmatic breath. So breathing in through the nose, exhaling out through the mouth. So keep going with a few of those. As you're breathing in through your nose, you're feeling that rib cage gently widen. And then as you exhale, we think about the rib cage gently softening. That's the cue I often give. And what we're hopefully feeling is a little kind of gentle imprint of the back of the rib cage onto the mat or the floor. What we don't really want to see is that rib cage flaring or lifting up towards the ceiling. And likewise, we're not really pinning it down with the exhale, squashing our back into the floor. So we're sitting comfortably and neutral. There should be a little bit of a gap into your lumbar spine, and that you've got equal weight across the base of your spine, left to right. If you make a diamond shape with your fingertips and thumbs and pop your thumb to your belly button, your navel, and then rest your fingertips down to your pubic bone, you can do a few tilts of the pelvis forwards and backwards first of all, and feel that range of movement that you have through the pelvis. And feel what happens to your spine as we tilt. So as we posteriorly tilt the pelvis, letting the fingertips rise, letting the lower back squash into the floor, and then moving in reverse, the fingertips lower, we anteriorly tilt the pelvis, the lower back lifts. So a functional spine is one that moves with comfort, so it's good to explore these ranges. And then find your middle or resting position. And for most people, the fingertips and the thumbs are going to be about level. And as we mentioned before, we've got that little bit of a gap into our lumbar spine. Your hips are level and we've got our knees and our feet in line. We're not letting the knees collapse in or fall out. We're going to take our breath and then we're going to exhale and set through the centre. So lifting the pelvic floor from back to front passage as we gently empty the lungs. Float your arms up to shoulder height, and then we're going to breathe in to prepare. Exhale, take the arms back into what we call chest stretch. So we're leading with the thumbs, taking the arms slightly wide as we lower them slowly and with control behind the head, or as far as you can comfortably, maintaining this neutral position. Inhale to return up to shoulder height. So keep going and combine this with your breath, because I think this is a really nice exercise to do to challenge the ribcage position and the breath. We're taking the arms slightly wide so we can maintain that width through our collarbones. We're making sure that the ribcage doesn't flare or lift towards the ceiling. I'll show you one of those now as the arms come back. So what we don't want to see is that you're creating that movement through the shoulders by losing this position of your ribcage and your upper back. So we're keeping the spine in that nice neutral position, combining with your breath, keeping that low grade sustained pelvic floor contraction throughout, so making sure you're not switching on and switching off. Good. So just one more. And then pop your hands down so they're just resting comfortably by your side. Now, a nice place to put your fingertips for this next little challenge is just to rest your fingertips nice and comfortably onto your pelvis. And we're going to step through our centre again, if you've not already kept it on, and think about coming up into a tabletop position. So our hands are on our hips, so we can really make sure that we're staying nice and level, nice and neutral. And I will often talk about having spirit level across the front of your hips. We're thinking about keeping the bubble perfectly centred. So that's the first thing we're going to think about as we lift one leg up into tabletop. So 90 degrees at the hips, 90 degrees at the knees. And then we're going to pop it back down to that rest position, and then we're going to go the other way. We've got the pelvic floor switched on, we've kept it on. We're using the exhale with the effort, because we know that we can use our pelvic floor and our centre more effectively or strongly with that breath out. And what we're first of all making sure is that we're not getting a rock left and right. We're keeping that spirit level bubble perfectly centred, and you can use your hands as feedback here, resting lightly onto your hip bones as we lift one leg at a time. Good. The other thing that we want to think about is maintaining the neutral spine in terms of flexion and extension with a tabletop. So if there's some weakness into the abdominals, what we might see as you lift up into a tabletop and we start to challenge the core from the legs is that we lose this neutral spine, and the leg and the weight of the leg lifts up and makes the ribcage flare and the tummy dome. We don't want that to happen. So now we can think about what the corset is providing between the ribs and the hips. And I will often talk about bungee cords from those lower ribs down to the hips. And we want to maintain that even and steady tension in those bungee cords. So if you're quite comfortable with single tabletop, you're not getting that rock left and right, you're not getting the flaring of the ribcage or losing the position of the lumbar spine, you feel totally comfortable and totally in control, we can challenge that a little bit further. So we're going to hold our leg in left leg tabletop. That's going to stay still. We're then going to think about these bungee cords, and I'm going to lift my hands up just so you can see, but you keep yours, give yourself that feedback. We're going to think about tightening the bungee cords by squeezing a little bit deeper into the pelvic floor, a little bit deeper into the centre, but not changing at all the position of the spine. So we're not tightening and squashing, we're staying neutral. We're going to breath in to prepare, exhale. Can we think about that control and lift the other leg up to join without any change whatsoever in the spine, the pelvis or the abdominal wall? Let's pop that right leg down, then the left leg down, and test the other side. So one leg comes up, tighten those bungee cords, the other leg comes up to join. And then we go down, down. And this is often where we'll see people lose that front to back support. And as they lift that second leg up, they are losing this neutral spine position. There should be no discomfort into your back and no movement into your back at the moment. So what we don't want to see is that loss of control, the hips coming forward, the back arching as we lift that second leg up to join. So we're just having a play here and feeling, do we have control? And if we don't, we can stay with our single tabletop and build endurance there. If single tabletop is easy, but coming up to double tabletop like this is too much, one way that we can modify it is to reduce the lever length of that second leg. So we're going to scoop the heel in towards the bottom, make that lever a little bit shorter, and then with the same control, lift it up to join. And then you'll do the same in reverse, shorten that lever length, pop it down, and pop it down, and then same the other way. So right leg, shorten the left lever, and up you come, pop it down, and then pop the right leg down. And that can be a really nice modification for some. So now you're going to choose whether you're staying in single or double tabletop. So if you didn't come comfortably up to double tabletop, like I was initially showing you, you're going to stay in single tabletop. So everybody's going to pop their right leg up into tabletop. And then if you feel safe and comfortable, you can do so with control. We'll breathe that left leg up to join. So whether you're in single or double tabletop, it's just the right leg that's going to move now. We're going to keep the arms still first of all, and we're going to exhale the right leg away, inhale it to return. So now we're making that lever length even longer, and we're making that leg even heavier. So as we lengthen it away, there's more work for the abdominals, for that deep center to do. So can we keep the ribcage tucked in? Have we got those bungee cords from ribs to hips working effectively? Is the back staying in a nice neutral position? There should be no discomfort into the lumbar spine. Is that abdominal wall staying nice and flat? We're not getting any doming into the center or caving into the center. It's staying the same with control. And this is all the same. I'll show you a couple, whether we're in single tabletop as well. We're still thinking about all of those same things, but we've just got less load from the legs onto the abdominal wall. Okay, so you work at the level that suits you. And then we're going to pop that leg down and then go on to the other side. So we're going to lift that left leg up into tabletop. Just like on the other side, do we still feel safe and comfortable to come up into a double tabletop position or a single tabletop, the level that we want to work in today? We've got our hands free, we can feel the hips, we can palpate the ribs, we can use our breath to ensure that that center is completely set and we're in that lovely, stable, neutral position. So whether you're in single or double tabletop, now it's that left leg that we're going to extend away, increasing the length, increasing the load, making sure that the back is staying still, making sure that the rib cage is staying tucked. Using your breath, breathe your leg away each time. Nice audible breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. And if you purse your lips, you can generate a little bit more back pressure and create a slightly more effective diaphragmatic breath. So I'll often say to people, I want to hear your breath if they're struggling to get that. The other thing that we can see is as you start to get tired, as we start to hug those thighs a bit too close in towards our chest, I want you to be able to feel the weight of the leg or legs that are in tabletop. Don't let them sink in towards you. So we're trying to keep that 90 degrees. Okay, we'll do a couple more. And then we're going to think about combining the arms for the final part of this kind of postural challenge. Good, okay, we're going to pop that left leg down, right leg down if it's been lifted. So we're going to remember that chest stretch position from here. The palms are facing in. We're going to be taking the arms back into that chest stretch position, not hunching into the shoulders, keeping the rib cage tucked in, only going as far as you can control, and also only going as far as your less mobile shoulder allows. So if you've got one shoulder that feels a bit stiff, a bit restricted, we're not going to be asymmetric. We're just going to be guided by that stiffer shoulder or that more restricted shoulder. So we'll start with our arms by our side, or if you've been finding it useful, palpating the rib cage, palpating the hips, palpating the tummy. We're going to choose whether we're in single or double tabletop, but we're all going to work the right. So one leg comes up. If we feel safe and comfortable, we exhale, tighten those bungee cords, lift the left leg up to join. And we're going to float the arms up to above shoulder height. And now as we do our right leg stretch, both arms are going to go into our chest stretch. Again, audible exhale out through the mouth, in through the nose. And keep going with that. You keep breathing. Now we're challenging that cylinder of support with the heavy leg or legs and the load of the arms. And we're only moving as far as we have with control. So the back of the rib cage is making that really soft, gentle imprint onto the mat or the floor. And you can encourage that with the exhale, feeling the rib cage soften down. We're keeping the tummy nice and flat, the tummy still. There's no discomfort into the lumbar spine. 2. Last one. Relax your arms all the way back down. Pop the right leg down if it's been lifted. Lower that left leg. We're going to go on to the other side. So the left leg's going to come into single tabletop if we feel safe and comfortable. We increase that corset contraction by exhaling, deepening the tension in the bungee cords, floating the left leg up to right leg up to join, arms come up, and then the left leg is extending away. Using our breath again as the arms go wide. Think about that nice proud whip through the collarbones at the front. We're not losing our neck. And the work should really be felt in the front line of the centre, not in the back, not in the hips. It's that connection between your ribs and your hips. And we're trying to aim to do that lovely full diaphragmatic breath with each repetition. 3, 2, and 1. Pop the arms all the way back down. The left leg is going to lower to the mat if it's been lifted. Lower that right. Now I want you to straighten out your legs, straighten your arms overhead, and you can allow the rib cage to flare, the back to arch if it feels comfortable for you to do so, and just feel a bit of a stretch through that abdominal wall. And take a couple of breaths and see how you can modify that stretch around the rib cage as you breathe. Good, okay, popping your knees back to that bent position and then keeping your head and shoulders relaxed. Don't lift up through your head or strain through your neck. Use those strong tummy muscles to hug one knee and then the other knee in towards you, and you can come into that little ball stretch, stretching out through the lumbar spine. No tension into the neck or the upper back here, just stretching out through the lower back. If it feels comfortable, you can rock that stretch from left to right, only if that doesn't give you any discomfort across the back or the pelvis. Okay. So we're popping one leg down and the other, and we're going to just finish that little Pilates Focus class for today. If you have any questions, as always, please don't hesitate to get in touch. And if you have any questions about the breathing, the positioning, or if you're having any struggles with any of those exercises, Mickey and I are on hand to help. Thank you so much for joining me, and look forward to seeing you next time.